So, yeah, 25 million minutes, 250,000 shows a day. Now, wait a minute. Actually, hang on a sec, Mike. Let's do this math. So we asked for 50 cents a show, right?
We do.
So 250,000 shows a day.
Oh, my God.
Are we absolutely getting $125,000 a day? Can you imagine what we would do with that?
Uh-huh.
I'm sure it's slightly less than that. Of course, it's been a while since I've looked at PayPal, but I'm sure it's slightly less than that. It may, in fact, be considerably less than that, which is why we're whining about $10,000 of server costs. But anyway, yeah, we do ask for 50 cents a show. And, actually, I have to correct something because I did say I had not referred to Freedomain Radio as a charity. It turns out that in something I wrote 7 or 8 years ago, I did say that I was running a charity. That's back when I was working full-time, and this was more of a hobby. So, because I really either wasn't taking donations or had just started taking donations. So, yes, it is true. Thank you to the nitpickers that I did, in fact, say at one point when in the dawn of the show that I referred to it as a charity. But it's certainly not the case anymore, and I'd completely forgotten about that. So anyway, fdrurl.com/donate to help out the show. It's massively appreciated. I mean, people who want their political parties to succeed, donate. People who want their religions to succeed, donate. And if you want philosophy to succeed, well, you know what you need to do. It is a show that runs on the honor system. So do the honorable thing and donate for what you consume. So thanks, everyone. Have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful night. Thank you again to all the callers who've called in. A little later, an interesting switch occurs about money. After quoting my statement that I do not charge money, Kate responds that critics say people do pay, which is not the same thing at all. I do not charge money, but people who are grateful for whatever help, insight, or wisdom they get from the site do donate if they want. If receiving voluntary donations is the same as charging people for goods, then the Heart and Stroke Foundation is actually a competitive business and should cancel its charitable tax status. So I've seen a couple of comments, right? I think people are making kind of a mistake about how the show is funded. And there's not going to be a donation nag, right? But and it's partly just due to the fact that we use the word donation here. And the reason we use the word donation is we can't compel people to pay, right? I mean, this sort of goes way back to the beginning of the show when I was sort of thinking, it'd be great if we could charge people 50 cents a podcast and so on. But I think it's worked out, and I think it's a good idea to not have a paywall. Lots of people do have a paywall. Tom Likas has a paywall. Peter Schiff has a paywall. So we do put the show out for free. Now, we do say donate to help the show. And the word donation, of course, is a challenge because it makes people think of a charity. But really, a donation is you're paying for my time, for Mike's time, for Stoyan's time, for the bandwidth servers, for the technology, for all the books we have to read, for the technical equipment that we need, for the studio, you name it. It is not cheap to run an operation of this size. As Mike said, we're just getting a bill for $7,000 because the show has been so successful. Now, we do say donation simply because we can't make people pay. I would love to make people pay. That's sort of how things work generally in the free market. But I think it's neither productive nor helpful to attempt that. But and the reason I say that I would like to have people pay is for two reasons. One is that we then have more money to grow even further. And two, people who would be serious about philosophy would recognize the value. But because we use the word donation, people immediately think a charity. Now, I've never referred to this show as a charity, at least to my memory, because it's not a charity. It's obviously not a registered charity, and it's just not. It's not a charity. Charity is when you give people something and you don't get anything in return, right? I mean, you give to the homeless guy and you get a hand job, that's not charity. That's prostitution, right? And so when you give to the Salvation Army, you don't say, well, great, now I want to see some breakdancing, right? When you give to the Red Cross, you don't say, I'm a vampire, send me a couple of bags of blood, right? Then it would no longer be charity, but purchasing. So it's a charity if you give money to something and to some group, and in return you hope that they do some good with it, and you get that nice, good, toasty, oats, heart-flavored feeling of happiness and so on. If you are consuming these shows, if you are downloading, if you are watching, if you are consuming these shows, then it's not charity to pay for what you consume. It's charity to give people stuff and you don't get anything in return other than, like we sponsor, I guess my wife and I sponsor a couple of kids around the world. We don't say, and send us their kidneys when they mature, right? I mean, we don't expect anything other than we hope that this does them good in their life and so on, right? So it's not a charity because if you're consuming the fruits of my 40,000 hours of philosophy and education and so on, and all of the Mike's expertise and all of Stoyan's expertise and all of the technical hardware and software and bandwidth costs and everything, you're consuming a good. You are consuming a good. And when you consume a good, you should pay for it, obviously. So, because people are saying sort of strange things, floating around, like, well, I'll give you money if I know what you're spending it on. It's like, no, that's a charity, right? I mean, if Coldplay puts an album out and says, listen to the album, we would like you to pay us $5 for the album. Well, I don't know, pay you $5 if I know how many freaky meals you're buying Gwyneth Paltrow and yours kids, or I need to see an accounting standpoint of what it is that you're doing before I give you any money. It's like that's not how things work. You don't go to a Queen concert and say, yes, but I need to know how much perm exactly Brian May is using. No, you go see the Queen concert, you got to pay to see the Queen concert, right? And if you want to listen to this show, you really, of course, since this show is about, it runs on the honor system, right, which is payment on the honor system, 50 cents a show. And the price really hasn't gone up in 8 years, although the price of just about everything else has gone up enormously over 8 years. It's 50 cents a show. And some of the shows are 4 hours long. So I think if you are paying less than some people pay workers in the 19th century, you're getting a fair old shake and deal for philosophy. But this idea that I need to tell you what I'm spending it on, I mean, that may be true for a charity, but it's not true. You don't really get to ask that stuff when you're buying things from people or, well, I think Steph has too much money. It's like, well, that doesn't have anything to do with integrity, right? I mean, you don't say, well, so-and-so has, even if it were true, right? So-and-so has so much money, and therefore I can take stuff without paying for it. Because there is a little bit of stealing going on. If you're taking a whole bunch of time, resources, energy, and money and not contributing, and contributing, again, doesn't have to be financial, right? It can be just go share the videos. I don't even ask for money. Money's great and money is necessary. Without money, there's no show. That's just the reality of us not living in Peter Joseph's adult fantasy land. But we need money. But you're kind of taking without just consuming, right? There's no ads, and we're pretty generous with everything we put out here. And if you're consuming without contributing, it's not very honorable. I mean, you know that, right? And I'm not saying, listen to one show, send me 50 cents, store it up a little bit, because otherwise with PayPal I get like 3 cents and change or something. But you need to do the right thing. If you're listening to the show, you need to, and you can put up these things like, well, what's he spending it on? It's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Right? You don't go into a store and say, I'm going to steal something unless you give me an accounting of what you're going to spend the profits on. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm not spending it on anything dishonorable, right? And I'm not taking regular baths in liquid gold. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter what the income is. It doesn't matter any of those things. What matters is that you are consuming a resource that is expensive to produce. And you should, in the long run, of course, when you keep a rough track of what it is you've listened to and cough up the money. It's not a lot. Most of the shows are over an hour in length. And 50 cents an hour of philosophy, that's probably less than Socrates charged when he chat with you and request lunch. So I hope that helps. I hope that makes some kind of sense.